What's going on, guys? RC4wd dropped some new products for the Scale V8, which is awesome because I haven't had anything new in a little while. So we've got, this is made by Rogue Elements exclusively for RC4wd Edelbrock, branded, officially licensed intake, air cleaner, and valve covers. There's a little bit more to this kit than what you think. This comes in around 130 bucks, which doesn't seem like there's much to it, but we've got distributor, we've got wires, plugs, all kinds of stuff. I'm not sure yet, I haven't really got my hands on it, it just came in today. So we're going to take a look at it, and I'm thinking, I really want to put a V8 in something. I don't know yet, I've got my 4Runner in the background. The 4Runner would be a good candidate. We could pop the hood off and just let that V8 breathe. So I don't know, we'll see what we do. Alright, so one thing I noticed, this actually has an instruction booklet. Oh, we got some metal mesh. It's pretty cool. This has full details on everything, paint prep and finishing, distributor plug wiring, how to make the wire looms for your plug wires. It's even got little plastic retainers for your plug wires, so you have a little thing to route them. That's very nice, because that's one thing I hated about the old distributor setup from RC4wd was you had nothing to hold them. I used the smallest zip ties I could find, and it still just looked kind of big. If anybody's wondering, this is RC4wd part number Z-S2150. It does say here that they sincerely hope you enjoy your V8 upgrade kit. Rogue Element Components has been around since 2003, doing high quality RC parts made by a fellow builder for serious enthusiasts. RC4wd shares the vision, so expect more items exclusively through RC4wd soon. So that's pretty cool. This is some really pretty stuff. That's stuck to the cardboard. It's got a little sticky on it still, but nicely machined. Very, very nice looking stuff. Let's check out these valve covers. They are pretty. So that's cool. It's been a while since we've had any updates to the V8. I was kind of worried they were going to stop making it there for a while because they just hadn't had anything. We did some headers and stuff that they had, and they had the heads and those other Mickey Thompson valve covers, and there really hadn't been anything since. So it's exciting to see some new developments. Got a sanding stick here. We'll read the instructions to figure out where that goes. So yeah, I've got a new V8 here. Since I only have one currently, I don't know, I have two, but I'm not taking one out of rat rods. And so I've got a new V8 here. I only have two currently, which I've built more. I don't know, I guess I sold them over the years, but the tank track rat rod, I'm not changing that one. I love it the way it is. And the one we got in the mud truck, still not certain the direction the mud truck's going to go. But this is going to be more of a stock look. I mean, it's just a breather and valve covers. It's not like we've got a giant stack or the English intake and things like that that RC4wd has. And that's why I'm kind of leaning towards putting this in one of my Hilux trucks. But I don't know. We'll have to see when we get there. So let's get the V8 open and start looking at putting it together. Alright guys, as usual, things escalated quickly. Made a decision. The C2X needs a V8. So, this went from a 5-minute video to a 35-minute video, which went from an hour of filming to probably all weekend. But we got the time. I think this is the rig I have that would most fit having a little small block 350 swap in it or something. It's more of a trail truck, dedicated, it's cut, it's hacked, it's weathered. It'd be something that somebody would be out on a trail up by my land in Oklahoma. You know, there's a lot of hacked up Toyota trucks that there's not much Toyota left to them. So, I think that's what we're going to roll with. The 4Runner would look cool, but, yeah, I don't know. The 4Runner is more of a traditional build, kind of the overlanding theme with all the fancy CC hand bumpers and stuff. So, I had to make a decision now because the Scale V8 is assembled, everything out of the box, and we've got to put a motor in it. And if it's going to be in a crawler, I don't want to just throw another stock Tamiya can motor in it. And yeah, the C2X has a nice Holmes Hobby Torque Master Pro, I believe. This is a 35 turn. That's typically, I've really liked that motor. It's good all around. A lot of high end speed, a lot of low down torque. Not sure what the gear ratio difference is with the R3 single speed and the transfer case and everything to the R4. It's single speed still, but I know the gear ratio is slightly different. And the RC4wd drive transmission, the TCI scale trans, is actually a different ratio from the GCM racing one. And the GCM one is different from the other one, whatever brand that was, can't remember. The plastic one. SSD, yes, that one. So, I did a video on that a while back. We were looking at scale trans for the mud trucks, and we made a whole lot of discoveries on that. So, I think this is the route I'm going to go. I've got to do some tearing apart of the C2X. Everything should jive right. I'm going to have to change the transfer case. And I put it somewhere. I have one of these old, it's probably right here in front of me, just can't see it. There it is. One of these old 3-gear basic units. This is going to solve the problem. You look at the C2X, the output shaft is offset, and the output shafts of the transfer case are pretty well centered. And we need to keep those pretty well centered so we don't have any driveline issues on the trail, nothing binds up or anything. But our input, is going to be centered, and this solves that problem perfectly. The only issue we might run into is the spacer. I do have a coupler for this transmission, and we'll have to see how that all lays out. We need to keep it pretty much where it is, so it should leave us just enough room, just like on the Trail Finder 2, to squeeze the scale V8 in here in front of the servo where it is. If it doesn't, then it's going to be a lot of cutting, but this should work. I'm not sure yet how this is going to mount up. I haven't pulled that apart yet. I haven't had the C2X that far apart yet at all, as far as the chassis goes. So we'll see. But I do have a short coupler. I just saw it a minute ago. I'll have to find it again. Every time I clean the shop, I lose more stuff. Here we go. This was, I believe, for the R4 to the scale trans coupler. Not sure if that's in this mount kit. That's another thing. I do have the RC4wd drive Trail Finder 2 engine mount for the scale V8. If we use this transfer case, we won't be using that crossmember, but it does have the motor mounts that mount to these 2 holes on either side. And all we can do is hope and pray that there are some holes on here that line up, at least one per side, and then we can drill the others to fit. So, let's start with the teardown. I did want to add also that one of the biggest issues I've had to overcome with the C2X is it's light. It's so lightweight on its feet, even with the hard body. And we've played with the suspension, the length, the rods, the shocks, everything. We got it to sit low, and it's gotten pretty stable. And I don't think the extra weight is going to hurt us at all. I think it's actually going to help with this. It's going to put more weight out over the nose, and we may have to adjust the front shocks to compensate, but I think it's going to be an improvement on this rig, and it's going to look cool. Alright guys, so it's a new day. Been playing with the motor mounts. We've got the Trailfinder 2 Scale V8 mount kit. It just doesn't work with the C2X frame. The C2X frame is wider and it tapers in just a little bit here and here. So that wasn't jiving right, and there wasn't any holes in the right locations. So what we've got, these are the mounts for the R4 transmission, and these are made to go, I don't have another one sitting around, right here if you're going to use a 3D printed motor. It does not fit with this. I've got some that I've previously sanded down and made them fit, and it looks like it's going to put the motor in the right spot. And we're going to use the rear shock hoop hole and just run that bolt all the way through. Might need a little fine tuning, so I'm going to put these on here. Like I said, I had to file these down with the bench sander and yeah, allows those to to reach through. I have to put some longer screws in those on both sides, and we'll get that in there, and we can start looking at the transmission or transfer case. So I went ahead and clearanced the Delrin skid plate. We took the mount completely off for the stock transfer case, so there's no turning back now. I also opened out a little bit more on the rear section. I'm not sure yet how we're going to mount that transfer case. It does have some different options. It does not, I was hoping, excuse me, losing my voice today. I was really hoping I could just drill some holes in the rails and bolt it from the sides with some spacers. Not going to work out. So it does have some holes in the top side that go straight down. So that may be our next option, is we may have to clearance this out some more, drill holes straight down, mount it with some spacers through the Delrin skid plate, and we can taper those holes and put some flush mount M3 hardware on there so it doesn't hang down and catch on stuff. Excuse me. Probably also going to have to bevel these edges out a little bit so the drive shafts don't rub on anything, because it is going to pull the drive shaft towards the center a little bit. So yeah, lots to do. Let's get to work. Alright guys, so made a lot of progress. Had to do a little trimming. The front timing cover, had to file that down, and I had to trim the back off the aluminum servo mount. And yeah, everything's jiving pretty good. I got the transfer case mounted to the cross member, got the suspension all hooked back up. Had to make a couple changes. The rear drive shaft, of course, was too short. It's an old axial double slip unit that I don't know where it came from, but it fit in there very snugly. It's going to work just fine. Those are pretty stout. And yeah, I'm still running the stock front shaft. So the front on these is a 3-link with a panhard, and I had to adjust the panhard in the front. I'll show you that. Alright, it took me a minute to find a camera angle that could see that. So the third member was hitting the oil pan on the engine, and I just put a big spacer in there, and now it clears perfectly. And it doesn't hit under articulation in either direction, and under straight squat it just sets perfectly around the oil pan like it was meant to be. So that was very lucky. No issues with the front drive shaft hitting the transmission, and the third member cleared the transmission before we moved it. Now it has extra space. So next step, put the battery tray back in, get the electronics in, test the V8, make sure it's working, just a little desktop test. And yeah, then we can finally start putting on the accessories. Alright guys, time to start looking at the Edelbrock kit. And man, this is some tiny stuff. So it has instructions on painting the valve covers in the intake. I don't think I'm going to do that because, yeah, not steady hand. I did use a paint pen and put the paint on the Edelbrock. I'll show you here on the other one. Looks pretty good. It's not amazing, and I'm definitely not going to get it down in the fins. If the fins didn't roll over the edge, it would be easier. You could just brush it in, wipe off the fins, let it dry, and be good. But it rolls off the sides, and I don't want to. I'm going to mess that up. So first step, we got these little breather caps that are finned as well. We have a teeny tiny screw and a washer to put that in from the inside. Alright, so those are 0.05. Let's see. Well, this works. That screw looks a little long for this, but it's what it shows. This has got a lot of instructions for such a little thing. I think that's good. Alright, so this other one, I'm going to get my shirt ready. Get my paint pen good and runny. I'm just going to get it in there all over the place. And I got it all over me, and yeah, awesome. Had a little too much. Wipe. Yeah, I got to try to get it out of the fins now. And now I've got black paint all over me. Alright, can't get it out, so we're going to paint them black. I need to clean off my paint pen. So we're going to give it a go. Just going to, got to saturate. Let it get all in the grooves. It had a whole lot of stuff to prep. It had instructions on prepping the metal and washing, and yeah, I didn't do any of that. Alright, see if we can not ruin our fancy new valve covers. Wipe paint directly onto my finger. There we go. Okay, that does look pretty good. Alright, yeah, alright, that looks good. Alright, I'm going to do this off camera because I've got paint all over me now. guys, I think I'm wrapping this video up finally. Been working on this for 3 days now, and man, that is some tedious stuff. I've worked with my hands for many years, so the little teeny tiny plug wires and stuff, they just kick my butt. And yeah, it was a struggle. Not 100% happy with the way they came out. I started running out of shrink wrap that it came, or shrink tube that it came with, and yeah. But I'll take the body off here in a second. But I went ahead and just cut a hole in the hood. I'm trying to think what the most trashy kind of way. I mean, this is just a rock crawler. It's just a basher truck. It's not something somebody would take to shows or nothing. So we didn't need fancy stuff. We just got some Edelbrock valve covers and a breather. The aluminum stuff with that kit is fantastic. My distributor is, the body's sitting on it, so I'm probably gonna, after driving a few times, I'm gonna have a bunch of plugs come loose. And I don't know, there's just no way around that, unfortunately. Just in this situation. Putting this V8 in this truck was definitely a lot more work than I thought it would be. And I don't know, I'm digging it though. I think the added weight on the nose is going to help this thing perform better as well. I did adjust the front shocks down a little bit. It is still sitting pretty level. So yeah, if you're interested in this dress-up kit, it is part number Z-S2150 RC4wd drive. And again, those aluminum components are beautifully made. I took the air cleaner off here at the end, and I did put the mesh. It did provide mesh to put around the filter. Thought it looked a little meaner, looked a little more trail truck. And I don't know, I wanted to cut the whole hood, but we don't have anything else going on under there. And that involves more supports for the grill. It involves probably having to make body mounts up front somewhere to hold everything in place. And then I thought, well, if we cut the hood, then we could dovetail or whatever, taper in the nose of the truck, narrow the grill, and do some cool stuff like that. But then I was like, well, you don't want to narrow the front and not narrow the back, and narrowing the back would mean tearing up the bed that I've already made. So yeah, just cut a hole for now. I do need a couple more things for the V8, and I'll show you some of that. Alright, it's really hard to get a good camera angle in there, but I am missing the water neck. The thermostat housing goes right here on the front. I do have some of the radiator hose that came with the RC4wd drive radiator. I do have that as well. If we get to that point with removing the hood, we can throw in that aluminum radiator and gut the whole grill shell so it's exposed and everything. And that might be a pretty cool thing to do down the road. But yeah, I definitely need the water neck there in a hose because that's right there exposed. But I really should have cut back a little more so you can see the valve covers. But I wanted it to look more like something, you know, they just hacked a random hole in the hood so the V8 could stick out because, you know, they just blew the 22 RE engine and found a small block on Craigslist and threw it in their mud truck for the next weekend. One of those kind of builds. But yeah, I'm not sure if you can even see some of the plug wires back there. It had some ideas. The instructions were kind of funny, but it wasn't the most clear thing on a lot of cases. Things seemed like it could have been done in different order that would have made more sense, but I don't know. It has an actual coil, so you run it to the center of your distributor with a wire, and it said to mount it wherever. Usually it's on the firewall. I know it's some small block 350s from the back in the day. It actually mounts up here behind the intake on that actual manifold. So that's kind of what I did with mine. I did wrap it with other shrink wrap because you're not gonna have a billet coil on this truck, and in real life, you know. So I put some red shrink tubes so maybe it looked like MSD brand or, you know, whatever one of the off brands that was red back in the day. And I tucked it underneath the mount for the distributor that mounts to the carburetor base, so it's right back there where it kind of needs to be. Doesn't stand out a whole lot. You have to really be looking at it to see it. But let's pull the body off. Alright, so I've already got some plug wires come out. One over here. There's my coil up underneath that little bracket right there. The body does set on here and push it down, so that pulled some of this stuff loose. Actually pulled 3 or 4 on that side loose. The instructions say just to shove it in the hole, glue it, or maybe shrink wrap it to a small set screw. The original RC4wd drive distributor kit had little set screws that went in those holes, and the plug wire was hollow, and it actually would slide over it and kind of thread onto it. And I thought I had one of those laying around, and I don't know what I did with it. I was going to steal those little plugs basically and use the other plug wires and make that work and be a lot more secure, but I don't know. It said you can glue them, don't glue them, you might change them later, I don't know. It was being cute about changing spark plugs, I think. So yeah, that headers, another thing. I've got my RC4 drive's long tube headers. Sorry, it's been a long weekend. The long tube headers are resin printed. RC4 drives offered them for a while. I've had a set just sitting on them, and they might fit. I don't know. These have taller shock hoops on the C2X, and it's just very snug in there. There's a nut on the back of that one, so it takes up a little bit more space. I did modify mine a little bit, and I went to paint them black, but I'm just out of energy for the weekend. This project has taken about 8 hours of build time to swap this motor over. But yeah, that'll be a project for another day. So yeah, you check these out, RC4wdrive.com if you're interested. Like I said, I gotta get the water neck. I did throw this on. This is the old, it's the water pump for the pulley set, I think. We won't be able to run the pulley set. That's another thing I had to do, was file down that timing cover quite a bit to fit it in there. And as you can see how far back the motor sets, it had to be as far forward as we could up against the servo. But yeah, I drove it around the house, did a little test drive. I think the transfer case needs grease maybe. It's a little bit noisy, but it worked fine. So we may have to pull that out here and add some grease to it. The transmission I did grease. Alright guys, set that up for the thumbnail. I got the body lifted off so we can wrap up the engine install. But I appreciate y'all watching, and yeah, keep it scale. Check out the merch below if you're interested in supporting the channel, and leave a thumbs up if you like it. And yeah, keep it scale guys. I'll see y'all in the next video.